Alright, you and I are about to watch a simple rescue mission turn into an absolute nightmare for Seo Yul. Seo Yul is just a lowly D-rank rescue hunter for the Bureau, specialized in finding people lost in deadly dungeons. During a routine mission, his team heads inside, expecting nothing more than a standard extraction. But everything goes sideways when ghouls cut off their exit. Seo Yul uses his search skill to find another way, but it leads them straight into a monster-filled death trap. As his squad gets swarmed, Seo Yul realizes a hidden necromancer is the one pulling the strings. In a total hero move, he shoves his teammates into a magic circle, trapping himself behind to make sure they survive. Now solo, he faces the boss, who tries to turn him into a brainless ghoul. On the edge of death, Seo Yul searches for any way out and finds a monument offering a legendary class, the Architect of Labyrinth. With nothing left to lose, he accepts and gets warped into a tutorial zone. He has undergone a rare reawakening and must now fight to keep his new life. He starts tearing through the labyrinth, leveling up fast until the system gives him a warning. He has 4 ghouls left and only 30 minutes on the clock. He realizes he has to pick up the pace. The tutorial was a total breeze at first. He snatched a weapon from a corpse and used his mapping skills to hunt down the targets. It felt like a walk in the park, and Seo Yul was sure he would finish with time to spare. But everything changes when a massive monster starts hunting him. Don't blink, because this is exactly where the tutorial gets dangerous for Seo Yul. Knowing the big guy would take some serious effort to kill, Seo Yul decides to wipe out the small fries first before focusing all his time on the giant. Before he can even start, a small one walks right up to him, making his job way too easy. But just as he goes for the kill, the giant monster and the 3 remaining ghouls appear out of thin air. He is stunned because he never sensed them moving as a group. He skipped checking his map because he was rushing, and now he is in a massive mess. Trying to stay cool, Seo Yul realizes he can only take on 2 of these ghouls at once. He drops one and tries to figure out a plan. Problem is, he is totally surrounded. His only option is to smash right through the middle of them. But after reading the room like a chess grandmaster, he quickly realizes he is already in checkmate. His confidence starts to slip as those old feelings of being a weak D-rank hunter crawl back into his mind. But as they lunge at him, he refuses to give up. He tells himself this is just a tutorial meant for his own growth. He screams at the system to act like a useful assistant and find a way out. He didn't accept this job just to be monster food. Suddenly, his 6th sense skill kicks in. You and I are about to see the system drop a game-changing new option. It tells Seo Yul he can turn the tables by linking his 6th sense directly to his map function. Once they are linked, the system starts spamming him to use the new spin block skill through his map. Seo Yul tries it out and realizes he can literally spin the dungeon walls to move the entire room around. Before the monsters can reach him, he hits the spin button, trapping them on the other side and leaving them totally confused. With only 1 monster left in front of him, Seo Yul is loving this new godlike power. He spins the blocks a few more times to isolate the rest, hunting them down one by one. Before long, 3 ghouls are dead. Then, Seo Yul moves in to finish off the giant monster once and for all. But reality hits hard when the beast suddenly grabs him and squashes him like a panini. Seo Yul isn't having it though. Like an absolute boss, he breaks free and ends the giant with a single devastating strike. The system announces the tutorial is clear, officially changing his class to Labyrinth Architect. He even gets the King of the Labyrinth skill, meaning every monster he defeated now serves him in his own dungeon. Finally, the system offers to send him back home. Outside, Li-Han is desperate to go back in for him, but his friends hold him back, thinking Seo Yul is already dead. Plus, the dungeon gate has already vanished, meaning there is no way to get him back. But then, Seo Yul just strolls out eating a popsicle, offering them some to cool their panicked brains. And as we wrap up, Seo Yul heads to the park to test his new skill, the sphere. Watch out, anyone caught inside is his forever. Even though this sphere can forcibly trap enemies. Now, pay attention here. The system warns Seo that enemies can escape by killing the boss, and if they do, they'll become way more powerful than before. Seo decides not to just throw enemies in there without a solid plan. He also notes that the sphere is invisible to others, making it a perfect tool to use. He then plans to fill his labyrinth with stronger monsters, knowing they'll be useful when he faces more powerful threats in the future. But the catch is he has to defeat the monsters inside first, and use his King of the Labyrinth skill to make them serve him. Ultimately, he realizes he needs to level up his own strength to beat those monsters. While he's deep in thought, his neighbor's daughter, Yeonhee, suddenly appears. She brings over a batch of apples from her mother. Seo is shocked by the amount and asks if it's really okay. Yeonhee promises it's fine since they always have extra stock left over from their family store. On the way home, Seo asks about school. She says it's fine, but she's clearly looking uneasy. They both stop dead in their tracks when they hear a woman screaming in front of a nearby hotel. She's frantically begging the police to let her through because her little daughter is still trapped inside the building. Now here's the part you and I should watch closely. Yeonhee sees no fire, but Seo realizes it's a dungeon break caused by a neglected gate. This means the monsters from inside have finally broken out into our real world. Seo hands Yonhee the apples, promising to take them back later. He explains that as a hunter in the rescue department, he has to do his job. But just as Seo tries to rush toward the hotel, a police officer blocks his path. Seo shows his identification to prove he's with the rescue team, but the officer is confused since he's all alone. Seo says backup is coming, but the man stays firm because the place is currently crawling with dangerous red goblins. Even so, Seo insists on going in solo, especially since a defenseless little girl is still trapped inside. The cop keeps trying to argue, but Seo just brushes him off. He knows he's not actually alone. Heading inside, Seo is disgusted with the Hanel Guild for failing to clear the gates in this specific area. People ignore the danger around them because they trust these big guilds to do their jobs. But these greedy guilds ignore small gates that aren't profitable, often leading to these bloody and violent dungeon breaks. Once inside the lobby, Seo activates his sixth sense skill and feels the red goblins lurking in the shadows. He calls them out, and like a swarm of angry flies, they charge right at him. Seo immediately deploys the sphere, sucking every single one of them into his labyrinth. Let's pause. Watching this from his palm like a total boss, Seo knows the old him couldn't have handled this. Now, as the king of the labyrinth, he can just relax while his monsters do all the dirty work. Seo watches from the outside as his minions chase a one-star red goblin that suddenly stops mid-hallway. These red cretins might be ordinary, but they're much more cunning than the average goblin you'd usually see. Just as the ghoul thinks it's won, the goblin grins wickedly as more of its comrades emerge from hiding. Before they can pounce, Seo slams a wall down, giving his ghoul a much-needed path to escape. He checks the labyrinth status, only to find that the goblins are using tricks to wipe out his minions. Seo notes he has to stay sharp since he sucked a massive amount of these goblins into the sphere. But despite their tricks, they're still just pawns on his chessboard while he's the one playing game master. Eventually, he reaches the 17th floor and finds the little girl, Somi, hiding in a corner. He promises she's safe now. As they leave, Somi asks if he really beat all those monsters alone. Seo says yes, even though he knows the ghouls were the ones doing the heavy lifting. Still, it counts as his victory anyway. He's relieved he sucked them into the labyrinth since these monsters were using their scent to track humans. If he'd arrived even a minute later, they would have found Somi's hiding spot for sure. Suddenly, the system blares a warning. Over 50% of his ghouls have already been killed by the goblins. Seo gets Somi into the elevator, telling her he has to stay behind to round up the survivors. After sending her down, he checks the sphere and spots the culprit. The Red Goblin King is single-handedly slaughtering his ghouls, and that's where we leave it. Seo considers sending him to the boss, then quickly changes his mind. Alright, you and I are about to watch what happens when the Goblin King tries to outsmart Seo Yul. He is worried the monster will evolve, so he dives in. The second he enters the labyrinth, Seo Yul is hit with a grisly sight, piles of ghoul corpses littered all over the floor. He maneuvers through the map, cutting off the Goblin King's path to stop the chaos. Then, he draws the beast's attention right toward himself. The moment the Goblin King shows up, the monster lunges forward with a massive, bone-crushing swing. It screams a vow to end him, but Seo Yul just dances around the blows without even breaking a sweat. As he dodges, Seo Yul can feel the massive jump in his stats and physical speed since his recent reawakening. He mainly came in here to field test his new abilities, thinking he might leave the rest of the cleanup to the ghouls. But after seeing how much he has leveled up, Seo Yul is feeling fully confident he can handle things on his own. As the king keeps swinging, Seo Yul drives his weapon deep into the monster's wrist, but the beast rips free and strikes back. Even so, Seo Yul holds his ground, actually thanking the goblin for the knockback since the damage to its hand is already done. Seo Yul starts trash-talking the beast, mockingly pointing out that it cannot even use that hand anymore. Besides, that little thank you was real. He has got a brand new trick he has been dying to try out. To lure the monster to the center, he keeps hurling insults, calling him weak and a waste of space. Unfortunately, those insults are too soft to move the beast. So, Seo Yul turns up the heat, and it finally works. The Goblin King loses it when Seo Yul asks if he is just a wuss. Enraged, the king charges straight at Seo Yul, vowing to end him for good. Now pay attention here. Seo Yul is about to unleash a trap that will change the game. He triggers a device that freezes the king in place. With a cold smile, Seo Yul says goodbye, and triggers a massive spiked ceiling trap that instantly turns the goblin into paste. Sure, it cost him 20 gold, which is around 2 million won to set that up, but he is thrilled with the result. Honestly, it is so lethal he actually starts feeling a bit sorry for anyone caught in it. Right then, the system chimes in to let him know he has reached a brand new level. Plus, the entire goblin pack he took down using the King of Labyrinth skill has been added to his territory. Later, he heads back to the hotel, where Lihan gives him an earful for going in alone. Lihan asks if he handled things, but Seo Yul fakes amnesia. However, Lihan isn't buying it. The police already told him the goblins vanished once Seo Yul went inside. But Seo Yul isn't planning on leaking a single detail. He just laughs and tells Lihan that if he wants the real truth, he will have to buy him dinner. Suddenly, Sungun, the manager from the Hanul Guild, cuts in and asks to have a quick word with them. Lihan agrees, and Sungun offers a hollow thank you. Seol and Lihan are disgusted by how he acts like the guild actually did the work. Sungun then begs them not to talk to the press about the incident. The guild wants to keep the public in the dark. He offers to pay for the hotel damages, warning that negative news about the guild would only make the citizens feel anxious and afraid. On top of that, he even offers to cut a generous check to the local rescue department. You saw that too, right? Seol is furious because it is true. Unlike the Hunter Bureau, which is mostly D-rank hunters, guild hunters can be S-rank powerhouses. That is a massive gap in strength. Because of that raw power, people trust the guilds more, believing they are the only ones who can keep them safe. But Seol absolutely hates that the guilds exploit that public trust to get away with whatever they want. He knows he cannot change the world yet, no matter how much he despises this corrupt and broken system. Refusing to let the guy off easy, he pats Sungun on the shoulder with just enough force to clearly intimidate him. Seol gives a tired smile and agrees to the request, mostly because he does not want to publicize the incident and draw attention to himself. He also knows that even if he talked, the Hunter Association would just bury the story for the guild. But he won't let them go for free. He bluntly demands that 10 billion won be donated to the rescue team instead. Since they will be the ones cleaning up the guild's future messes, Seol intends to bleed them dry. He asks if the manager can match it. Sungun is stunned, unable to even speak because Seol has already terrified him into a literal code brown. With the dungeon break settled, Seol gets a 2-day break, so he heads to the park just to decompress. He is proud he prevented any casualties and managed to squeeze a massive fortune out of the greedy Hanul Guild in the process. The only catch is his co-workers' suspicious looks. They are dying to know how he took down an entire pack of red goblins alone. You and I just saw a legend in the making. Trust me, Seol is determined to keep his power a secret for now. Alright, you and I are about to see what happens when a hunter tries to keep a world-shaking secret hidden from all the major guilds. He decides to use his vacation time to focus entirely on maintaining and upgrading his secret labyrinth. First, he calculates the steep price for repairing his damaged walls and respawning all of the fallen monsters. Since labyrinths do not have their own unique currency, he has to use universal hunter gold to pay. The total is 53 gold. That is 5.3 million won, which is a crazy amount of money, basically twice the monthly salary of a normal person. Even though the cost is outrageous, he pulls the trigger anyway since he already has 80 gold in his wallet. But before he can finish the process, Young-hee from the monitoring department calls him up, which immediately ruins his mood. He snaps at her to get straight to the point because he is officially supposed to be on vacation. Jung-hee fires right back, mocking his idea of a vacation as just chilling around in a boring public park. She wants him to use his seeker skills to help track a target, but pay attention, Seol just hangs up the phone without saying a single word. Jung-hee is left in absolute shock. She simply cannot believe the sheer nerve this guy has to just cut her off. Meanwhile, Seol completely forgets about the encounter and goes right back to planning the layout of his labyrinth. He decides to save some gold by handling things himself from time to time, instead of respawning every single monster. Just as he is weighing his options, that annoying phone starts ringing in his pocket again, making him see red. Seol answers and barks at Young-hee to do her own job and track the target herself, since that is her department. She begs him to save a damsel in distress, and even offers to buy him beef. Seol is not interested in playing hero, but that beef definitely catches his attention. To seal the deal, Young-hee promises that he will agree the moment he hears the name of the person she needs him to find. When Seol asks for the name, Jung-hee reveals that she is looking for the legendary hunter, Taesan. That immediately catches his interest. Since he wants to meet a hunter of that caliber, he agrees to help her out. Shortly after, he arrives at a local spot to observe a group of old men playing a game of Korean chess. Even though he had never met the man, Seol was able to track a massive, dark red aura leading all the way to the park. Only the most powerful awakeners possess an aura this thick. They tend to stand out like a beacon, even from a distance. He studies him closely, wondering if this scrawny old man is really the legend, because he looks like a regular senior citizen. Suddenly, Taesan's game partner notices him staring and asks Seol if he actually knows how to play Korean chess. Seol says he knows a bit and starts giving the old man some advice, but his sixth sense suddenly screams that he is in immediate, deadly danger. Taesan suddenly lunges forward to strike him with a heavy chess piece. Seol dodges just in time as the piece shatters a tree behind him. The other old men run off to take photos. Getting scolded by a legend? You and I both know that attack just confirmed this old man is the real deal. Taesan is one of the only 5 S-rank hunters currently active in Korea. He is famous for turning anything into a lethal weapon. But Young-hee interrupts before he can make another move. Taesan asks if he is from the monitoring department, but Seol clarifies that he is a seeker from the rescue team. The legend calls him arrogant. Seo just takes the compliment and keeps hyping himself up even more. Jung-hee explains that she has been searching for him because the new trainees have already gathered for his scheduled lecture. Tae-san agrees to head back, and Jung-hee asks how Seol tracked someone that the entire monitoring department could not find. Seol just gives her a smug look and says he is simply that good. He prepares to leave, but Tae-san orders him to follow because he wants to see if Seol has any talent to back up his mouth. Tae-san stands before the crowd of trainees to give a live demonstration. He tells them every hunter has a maximum capacity, meaning a C-rank hunter will likely never be anything more than C-rank. However, he informs them that the system can actually be bypassed depending on a person's sheer willpower. Martial arts cannot be measured by simple numbers. You can become stronger by mastering your specific weapon of choice. While everyone else is hyped, let's be real, Seol just wants to get back to his labyrinth and leave this lecture behind. Suddenly, Tae-san barks at a trainee standing right next to Seol, asking how long he has been receiving this training. Seo answers that he has been training for 4 months. He is one of the rare B-rank hunters in the department. Tae-san praises his talent before asking what he thinks is actually required to properly master the sword. Seo answers with confidence it takes overwhelming strength and a perfect understanding of one's own unique skills. Alright, you and I are about to watch Tan test our main character, Seol, who casually claims that the only thing required for a weapon is the willpower to use it. Mocking laughter erupts from the crowd because of his mindless answer, as everyone clearly prefers Seiyu's response instead. They also point out that Seol isn't even a trainee in their department. Tan then notes that Seol answered too casually and asks if he's actually sure about his response. Seol says he's certain and admits he's impressed that Tan was sharp enough to see right through him. Tan calls Seol out for his nonchalant attitude but stuns the crowd by announcing the answer is correct. Seiyu is absolutely fuming, and while Seol is still puzzled, he thanks Tan. Seiyu angrily questions Tan's decision and refuses to accept it because Seol isn't even a ranked trainee like him. Seol is confused by Seiyu's childish outburst while Tan tells the boy that anyone with the right qualifications can stand on this stage. He then announces he'll give Seol an equal chance like Seiyu to pass his test. All they have to do is prove their respective answers. Seiyu accepts the challenge, but Seol immediately turns down the offer. Tan asks him to reconsider, telling him he will take anyone who passes the test as his disciple. The idea of being the personal student to an S-rank powerhouse instantly grabs Seol's full attention. Aside from learning how to get stronger, it's also a golden chance to rise to a much higher position. Seeing he has Seol exactly where he wants him, Tan asks if he's tempted. Seol hesitates for a second before decisively accepting Tan's offer. Afterwards, they proceed to the test location, and Tan tells them to utilize the skill he'll pass down to smash a massive ether stone. He promises to take as his disciple anyone who breaks off as much as possible from the stone. Now pay attention, this ether stone is a rare artifact imbued with ancient magic power that only the most elite awakeners can ever hope to shatter. Seol wonders what Tan means by passing down a skill while Seiyu looks on. Determined to win, Seiyu pumps up the crowd for support. While they cheer for the favorite, Seol decides to grab this opportunity no matter what happens. Tan then prepares to transfer the skill, but he warns them they'll be disqualified if they don't feel anything. As the skill transfer begins, a terrifying red aura slams into both of them with crushing force. Seol's system detects the terrifying aura instantly, but before he can make sense of anything, Tan's aura almost sucks the breath right out of him. However, he's determined to persist until the very end to receive the skill. Just as he starts to lose consciousness, a sudden wave of calmness hits Seol as the skill Tan passed down finally takes root. A spectral spear appears before him, and the system notifies him that he's acquired the Serene Mind skill. The system also confirms he's mastered the Dragon King's spearmanship. Tan notices their expressions and commends them both for having the aptitude to receive this inheritance. Normally, most people don't feel anything at all, while others pass out before they can even receive the skill. Let's see if Seiyu's arrogance is backed by actual skill as he steps up to take the lead first. Seiyu is determined to blow everyone away and keep Seol from even having the courage to challenge him. As he prepares to swing at the stone, he curses Seol under his breath, accusing him of buying his way in with money. He can't understand how a useless D rank managed to withstand Tan's intense skill inheritance. Determined to show his absolute superiority, Seiyu uses every bit of his strength to hit the ether stone with his sword, chopping off a massive chunk. The crowd is amazed by Seiyu's power, feeling his talent is being wasted in the monitoring department. Tan notes that Seiyu has successfully mastered the Dragon King's swordsmanship. After the demonstration, Seiyu taunts Seol, telling the junior he needs to know his place. But Seol fires back, mocking Seiyu for his inferiority complex and his desperate need to always prove himself. Before the roasting gets out of hand, Tan tells them to cut it out and informs Seol it's his turn. Seol heads to the front, thinking he only responded to Seiyu because of his condescending tone. Though he knows he's no match for Seiyu in terms of pure power, Seol doesn't let it get to him. He believes it's not about strength, but willpower. This is the test to prove his own answer is correct, something Tan already confirmed earlier. Even though he answered casually, Seo Yul is absolutely certain of his answer. He stops to think about why his answer is the true one. Remembering the rescue hunter who once saved his life, Seo Yul finally realizes his answer is to become just like him. Just like that hunter, Seo Yul became a rescue hunter to help people feel the hope he felt when he was saved. To do this, he must become stronger. And that's where we leave it, trust me. You're going to want to see the power behind this strike. Alright, you and I are watching as he unleashes an inferno that vaporizes the ether stone, leaving everyone, especially Seo, stunned. As Seo heads back, he gives Seo a smug apology, rubbing it in that a junior just snatched his spot. Master Tan praises Seo for tapping into the weapon's true power, something only those with total self-awareness can achieve. Tan officially takes Seo as his disciple, and as the crowd roars with excitement, Seo accepts with a grin. Meanwhile, things take a dark turn as Yonhee gets cornered by a gang of bullies led by a boy named Gintai. A blonde bully mocks her, sneering that this is what she gets for being a nosy Karen and helping a friend. Apparently, Yonhee had slapped Gintai to protect her friend from his abuse, and now, the guy is out for blood. It backfired horribly. Her friend ended her own life just to escape the relentless and cruel torment of these bullies. Gintai mocks the tragedy, heartlessly reminding Yonhee that her friend is currently in the hospital, fighting for her very life. Yonhee glares with pure rage, which only excites Gintai. He slaps her hard, but before he can do anything else, a B-rank hunter interrupts him. Gintai orders his crew to move out, making sure they keep a tight grip so Yonhee has no chance to escape. He tells the hunter to follow them to a secluded spot where they can play with Yonhee undisturbed. Pay attention, this guy is pure evil. Back at the office, Jong-ah congratulates Seo on actually becoming the personal disciple of a powerful S-rank hunter. Tan let him pick any weapon, and he chose a spear. Jong-ah is clearly skeptical of his strange choice, but Seo knows it's perfect. To her, it looks basic. But his system already detected that this is no ordinary weapon. It is the Spear of Evolution, Loga. This legendary weapon can actually transform into many different forms based entirely on the user's will. As they arrive, Jong-ah starts complaining that she's already working way past her scheduled clock-out time for the day. Seo mocks her for being exhausted despite doing absolutely nothing all day long over at the monitoring department. This makes her try to pounce on him in a rage, but Seo holds her back with one hand while spotting a commotion. A distressed woman is pleading with a guard to see Seo, but she's being blocked from entering the building. The guard tells her to just call him, but she already tried and failed. Seo steps in right then, asking the woman what's wrong. Desperate, the woman reveals she's Yonhee's mother and cries that her daughter was just dragged off to the dangerous yellow belt. This sets Seo off instantly. He demands to know exactly who was responsible for taking the girl. Deep inside the yellow belt, one of Gintai's lackeys starts getting nervous about being in such a lethal and dangerous place. Gintai scoffs, telling them they're safe because they've got a B-rank hunter acting as their own private security. He proudly declares he wants to see what happens when Yonhee fights a monster. You and I can both see this guy is absolute trash, and it's only getting worse. Terrified for her life, Yonhee bolts instantly because she knows Gintai is crazy enough to follow through, so she races forward, desperate to escape this total lunatic. But before she can make a successful break for it, Gintai barks an order for the hunter to stop her. Without hesitation, the hunter trips Yonhee, sending her crashing hard and fast onto the cold, dusty ground. She screams for help at the top of her lungs, but the blonde bully just laughs, telling her it's useless since they're the only ones here. Suddenly, the hunter feels eyes on them from the shadows and warns the entire group to step back immediately. Ignoring the warning, the blonde bully steps forward and quickly becomes the very first person in the group to die. The hunter leaps to block more incoming stingers while Gintai stares at his friend's lifeless body in pure, unadulterated horror. The hunter screams for them to run, but Gintai is paralyzed, stammering and asking who the hell just attacked them. He tells him they're stinghawks, massive, deadly hornets that hunt their prey in swarms. Meanwhile, Seo has already breached the yellow belt, calling Jongmin to thank him for the critical intel. Jongmin is in the combat class and was the one who managed to first track down Yonhee's exact location. Seo thanks him again, but Jongmin insists he was just responding to the official missing persons report. He warns Seo about the danger of going in alone, but our hero isn't exactly worried about his own safety. Seo scans the now miserable landscape. This place was sealed off years ago after a massive dungeon break turned the entire area uncontrollable. The monsters here might not be the strongest, but they're incredibly cunning. Seo already had to drop a few of them just to make it inside the zone. They seem weak to him, but for an unawakened girl like Yonhee, these things are a total death sentence. He rushes to find her, but the swarm is closing in. Stick with me, because things are about to get really bloody. Stick with me, you and I are about to see our main character, Seo Yul, send monsters into the labyrinth. He tells them to call their friends. but even he's a little rattled when an entire army shows up on his doorstep. As the operation begins, Seo Yul finds himself running for his life before getting cornered by a swarm of deadly hornets. Despite dragging so many inside his sphere, they just keep coming, making him realize he's in way over his head this time. The labyrinth's monster count is dropping too fast. If he forces any more hornets inside, the whole dimension might actually collapse. On top of that, Seo Yul knows he's completely helpless against the ones still buzzing around outside. He makes a desperate move, sucking every hornet into the sphere before flooding the entire labyrinth with a massive amount of water. Just as the hornets are about to fully take over his territory, they freeze, sensing a sudden surge. Before they can react, a violent wall of water rushes in, drowning every single one of them. Seo Yul's heart aches seeing the wreckage. Repairing his precious kingdom is going to cost him a literal fortune. That massive bill is exactly why he was hesitating to use this drowning method in the first place. Still, he's just relieved it worked, and finally cleared the swarm that was hunting him down outside. Elsewhere, Gentai's group is struggling through a deadly temple run, and he's losing all patience with his useless B-rank hunter. The hunter claims the bugs are just too much to handle alone, but that only makes Gentai more furious. They're lost, trapped, and he's stuck with a total coward. To make matters worse, Gentai's other minion in the red hood is suddenly impaled by a hornet stinger. Now watch this. It is the exact moment Gentai realizes he messed up majorly by coming here just for fun. As the hornets close in now, the hunter tries to hold the back, while Gentai barks orders for him to clear the front as well. When a hornet charges, the selfish Gentai heartlessly grabs Yonhee to use as a human shield. Thankfully, a mysterious figure strikes the beast down before she gets hurt, leaving everyone completely baffled. Instead of showing gratitude, Gentai yells into the darkness, demanding to know who's there. Annoyed by the tone, Seo Yul steps out and introduces himself as a simple bureau hunter. He's furious that Gentai dragged Yonhee into this dangerous zone. Sensing her hero has finally arrived, Yonhee gets emotional and rushes straight into his arms for safety. He gently asks if she's all right, noting that this is the first time he's ever seen her cry. Gentai ruins the moment, offering to pay any price if they'll just show him the way out of this hellhole. Yonhee tells Seo Yul to ignore the human trash, but his expression suddenly turns terrifyingly dark. He whispers an apology to her, and before she can even ask why, he swiftly knocks her unconscious. Seo Yul gently lays her down, promising to return once he's finished taking out the garbage. "Trust me, you and I need to watch this." Seo Yul tells Gentai he's about to do something he doesn't want Yonhee to see. He plants his spear firmly and readies his fists for the beatdown of a lifetime. But Gentai is too arrogant to realize he's already dead meat, and he just keeps mouthing off. He pulls the classic "Do you know who I am" card, but Seo Yul already knows his face all too well. He reveals that Gentai is the spoiled son of Boomjin, a powerful judge on the Supreme Court. Apparently this brat is infamous for bullying, theft, and all kinds of disgusting crimes. But thanks to his daddy's deep pockets, he's managed to buy his way out of trouble every single time. Thinking his reputation still carries weight, Gentai tries to act tough and asks Seo Yul what he plans to do. Seo Yul simply shatters his shin with a kick. Gentai's brain freezes for a second before he collapses in pure agony. There's no mercy here. Seo Yul immediately starts using the spoiled brat as a literal punching bag. He mocks Gentai, telling him to try paying his way out of this beating since money solves everything. Seo Yul lands a few more heavy blows before the B-rank hunter finally decides to step in. The bodyguard takes a swing, but Seo Yul dodges effortlessly, releasing the brat now that the hunter has cleared the area. It looks like the threat of the hornets is finally over. Gentai gets cocky again, cheering for his guard because he's absolutely certain this useless hunter will win. He is convinced that a B-rank elite will easily crush a lowly D-rank bureau hunter. Unfortunately for them, Seo Yul moves like a blur, dodging every strike the hunter throws his way. At this point, Seo Yul is done playing. He was going to let them off with a stern warning. But since they're trying to kill him, you and I are about to watch him end them under the guise of self-defense. Alright, you and I are about to see what happens when a bureau hunter underestimates the wrong guy. Seo starts pulling out heavy-hitting moves that leave this pro completely baffled. Seo's strength is just on another level. It makes the hunter question everything he knows about power ranks and limits. He even starts thinking Seo might be faking his bureau status. Still, he thinks he has the advantage because Seo is only wielding a spear. He is about to find out how wrong he is. He decides to dive straight in, positive that if he can just close the gap, he can end this fight instantly. But here is the reality check. The second he gets within range, Seo grabs his hand like he had been waiting for him to make that exact mistake. Seo delivers a brutal punch straight to the face, giving him an instant facelift and knocking him out cold. Gentai is absolutely horrified. He screams for his protector to get up, but that hunter is totally out of commission. Gentai is left wondering if he is just some lucky nepotism B-ranker. That is when Seo realizes he just took down a B-rank hunter without breaking a single sweat. He figures it must be those insane stat boosts he earned from crushing all those hornets earlier. His power might already be way beyond a normal B rank. Seo just smirks, which only makes Gentai angrier. Gentai decides to stop acting like a coward. He grabs a rock, foolishly thinking he can succeed where a pro hunter just failed. As he charges, Seo stays perfectly calm. With one effortless swing of his spear, he sends Gentai crashing back down to the dirt. Seo looks down at him and asks how it feels to finally be on the receiving end. He reminds Gentai that his victims went through way worse than this, but Gentai won't budge. He tells Seo to deal with it, since power and money are all that matter in this world. Seeing the punk hasn't learned a thing, Seo decides the world is better off without a hopeless piece of trash like Gentai. Gentai starts to panic, but Seo doesn't even plan on wasting his own energy to finish him. Now, watch this. Seo just picks up Yonhee and tells Gentai he is leaving him for the hungry monsters nearby. Suddenly, glowing red eyes emerge from the darkness. A pack of vicious monster wolves slowly steps out from the shadows. Gentai starts screaming at them to back off, desperately hoping he'll somehow gain the power to control these wild beasts. It doesn't work. The wolves pounce as Seo walks away, calmly carrying Yonhee out of that dangerous zone. Once they are safe, Yonhee finally reunites with her family, and the waterworks start flowing for everyone involved. Jung Min later tells Seo that the corrupt officials who helped Gentai were caught and kicked out of the athletic department. He also warns that things in the city are about to get pretty chaotic for a while. And he is right. The public is furious as the news of the disciplined officials spreads through the streets. Even Gentai's father is under fire. He is forced to resign from the Supreme Court just to try and bury the scandal. Soon after, Seo gets a new quest from the system. He has 30 days to hunt the Queen Hornet. If he pulls this off, he'll be rewarded with a stinger dagger, 100 gold, and some royal jelly from the Queen's scepter. But if he fails, he'll lose 50% of his combat power against any and all insect-type monsters. Seo remembers seeing the Queen briefly as he was making his way out of the yellow belt. You and I both know a queen guarded by a whole swarm isn't an easy target, but Seo is pumped. He knows she is powerful. After all, her worker hornets were strong enough to almost tear his labyrinth apart. Later, Seo tells Leihan he is leaving early because he's got places to be. When Leihan asks about the paperwork, Seo freezes for a second before literally vanishing from sight. With 1 month until the Queen quest expires, Seo knows he needs to prep. That swarm is going to start reclaiming its lost territory very, very fast. He soon arrives at a temple where Master Tan is waiting. The old man barks that he is late and orders him inside. After changing into his training gear, Seo finally realizes he is officially Tan's disciple. But the old man warns him not to get too cocky because there are still 2 senior disciples ranked above him. Plus, the intensity of this training is going to be enough to make him choke. Tan leads Seo into the training hall, where he meets one of the senior students named Gunsu. Sitting in the center is the jawbone of an iron monster, a terrifying creature found nowhere else on Earth. Pointing to his scarred back, Tan admits this monster was the first thing to almost send him to heaven. Tan walks over to the massive bone and tells Seo that this is his very first task. And that's where we leave it, trust me. You and I won't want to miss Seo's next level of training. Alright, you and I are about to see a master show how it is done as he tosses aside a massive jawbone. Gunsu claps for his master, praising him for always being such an absolute beast. Meanwhile, Sule is totally floored by the man's muscles. He is beyond shredded. Tayson tells Sula it is his turn to try, and our guy is not about to back down. He steps up, thinking that since he is already ranked above B-, he should definitely be able to pry this thing wide open like Tayson. But Sule can't even get the thing to budge. He is struggling hard, leaving Master Tayson genuinely shocked that the jawbone didn't move a single millimeter. Sule refuses to believe it and keeps fighting the bone, while Tayson explains that this training is meant to forge raw physical strength. He just has to keep at it. As Tayson leaves, he warns Sule that there is no moving on until that jaw is pried open. Watching from the side, Gunsu is unimpressed, convinced that Sule is nothing but a lucky Nepo baby. The next day, as Gunsu heads back to the training hall, he remembers how he worked harder than anyone for 2 full years, just to prove he deserved to be the master, his direct disciple. But Sule snatched that spot right from under him. Gunsu is furious that a random bureaucrat got the position instead of a high-tier B- hunter like himself. After all that sweat and blood, Gunsu feels like it is completely unfair that he has been sidelined like this. Now pay attention here, he walks in, only to find Sule already there, busy scrubbing the floors. He gives a cold greeting, but Sule just tells him to relax and speak naturally since he is the new guy. Gunsu is definitely not okay with that, but he stops when he realizes the entire gym is literally sparkling. He has never seen the place this clean before. He is genuinely stunned and asks if Sule did all this work by himself, and Sule simply nods and says yes. Gunsu just walks off, telling Sule never to do it again. He thinks a direct disciple doing chores makes the rest of them look lazy and incompetent. Sule is confused and asks Gunsu if they really need to care about hierarchy for something as simple as cleaning. Sule explains that he just had some extra time on his hands and decided to be productive. He believes that being a direct disciple isn't an excuse to dump work on others, especially since they're all there for one reason: to get stronger. I know what you're thinking, this guy is too good to be true. Gunsu thinks he is annoying, but for 2 weeks, he watches Sule train later than everyone else. Gunsu slowly realizes that despite his special status, Sule never acts superior or looks down on anyone. He trains like his life is on the line while becoming friends with the entire crew. Gunsu can't find a single thing to hate about him, which actually makes him angrier because Sule is exactly the kind of man he wants to be. A bit later, Sule almost manages to pry the jaw open, but he falls short once again. His hands are shredded and bleeding from gripping that bone constantly. Seeing this, Gunsu actually walks over to hand him a bottle of water. Surprisingly, Gunsu tells him not to overdo it. Sule is stunned. He finally dropped those cold, stiff formalities. Sule starts drinking, but they're both interrupted by the deafening sound of a horn echoing from somewhere in the distance. Sule asks what that noise is, and Gunsu explains it is the deployment signal for the powerful Overcross Guild. It turns out, the Overcross Guild was heading into a dungeon nearby that very day. Sule is surprised they're active at this hour, but Gunsu notes they work 24/7. Sule wonders how he knows that, and Gunsu reveals he briefly worked for them. The next morning, the Overcross Guild emerges from the dungeon, having successfully captured a massive, rare steel-blood orc. One hunter asks his buddy if poaching monsters like this is even legal. The guy replies that, in the grand scheme of things, they're definitely not allowed to do it. However, that orc they just bagged would sell for at least 12 billion won on the illegal black market. He tells him that's how they pay their massive salaries. One of them holds up the orc's necklace, and the moment the beast sees it, he starts absolutely losing his mind. The two idiots start mocking the sentimental necklace and decide to just toss it away like trash. That push is all it takes to send the orc into a blind rage. Elsewhere, Sule and his squad have just finished up a rescue mission. His team leader invites him out for a group dinner to celebrate their success, but he turns them down, explaining that his master left him in charge of watching over all the other disciples while he is away from the hall. Suddenly, the emergency alarms scream for backup. A 3-star boss monster being transported illegally has broken free of its chains and is currently on a terrifying, bloody rampage. Shockingly, the chaos is unfolding right at the Korean Martial Arts Association. The orc is already tearing the association apart, destroying everything in its path and leaving Gunsu battered, bleeding, and completely helpless. In his final moments, Gunsu reflects on everything, thinking about how he always saw himself as some kind of untouchable genius. So what do you and I learn from this? He truly believed the strong were entitled to exploit everyone else. Stick with me as we see the moment he was left to die by his own men, and realized he was wrong. He finally understands that he was nothing more than a replaceable cog in a massive machine. Gonu sees the truth now. The world is a cruel and rotten place. Still, he believes some good remains, because a stranger saved him. Now, he is trying to honor that person's memory by making this dark world just a little bit better for everyone else. Instead of folding before the massive orc, Gonu drags himself back up to his feet and stands firm. He screams at the beast, declaring that every ounce of pain has only prepared him to survive that 2-year hell. Every muscle in his body screams in agony, but he still points his broken blade at the monster. He knows he just has to hold the orc's focus long enough for the other disciples to make their escape. The orc throws a devastating punch, and Gonu is simply too exhausted to even try and dodge it. He prepares for his head to go flying, but Seo Yul suddenly appears, blocking the strike and telling Gonu that he has done more than enough. Seo Yul tells Gonu to leave the rest to him before activating the labyrinth and dragging the orc inside. Now watch this. The orc wastes 0 time, charging Seo Yul with a level of monstrous aggression he definitely did not expect. This beast just fought the Overcross Guild, and still has all this energy left. The orc smashes through the labyrinth walls like they are paper, chasing Seo Yul through the halls as if he were on a date. Stopping at last, Seo Yul admits he cannot take this monster alone and needs some serious backup right now. He immediately summons a horde of red goblins to surround the orc and pin him down. They lunge at the beast, trying to swarm him while Seo Yul looks for a gap, but the orc is strong enough to rip them like paper. Seo Yul watches as his minions are shredded by this monstrous orc. He is furious about the damage to his walls, especially after everything he did to fix them up. Goblins aren't enough for the opening he needs. Despite the massive risks of using a high-tier monster, he realizes he has absolutely no choice left at this point. Seo Yul then summons the labyrinth boss, Kaori. Kaori engages the orc in a brutal struggle, giving Seo Yul the window he needs to aim for the head. He drives his spear into the orc's skull, but even that is not enough to stop its strength as it crushes Kaori. With Kaori defeated, the system alerts him that respawning is currently disabled. Furious that his boss was killed, Seo Yul pulls back and activates the Hall of Steel trap. Arrows rain down on the orc while Seo Yul uses the distraction to slice the beast's leg with his spear. The orc hits the floor, and Seo immediately triggers the spike ceiling trap to crush him flat. As the orc is flattened, Seo praises his own genius for stacking all these traps in one single area, just in case things went sideways. Suddenly, a warning pops up saying Labyrinth durability has dropped to 72% and will vanish at 60%. Losing the boss was already a massive hit, and now all his monsters are about to be eliminated too. Still, he knows that without the labyrinth, he would be dead already. But wait, the ground starts shaking, and you and I are about to see this orc burst through the floor looking even more dangerous. The system warns that the orc has entered its final struggle. Seo has to admit, this guy is tough. The labyrinth won't hold much longer. Seo decides to head back to the outside world, figuring the association must have been evacuated by now. He plans to finish this once he has space to move. Meanwhile, Gonu is still searching for him. Suddenly, the gate opens right next to him. Before he can react, Seol and the orc come charging out mid-battle. Trading blows with the beast, Seol notices something strange. He realizes he can actually keep up with the orc and wonders if the beast is finally getting tired. But he kills that thought when he notices his own attacks are hitting much heavier than they used to. Even though the orc is striking harder too, Seol can tank the hits because his body feels completely different after those 2 weeks of training. In fact, it feels like he is being torn apart. Raw power surges through him, and he can actually feel his bones growing stronger with every second. Seol dashes forward, slamming his spear into the orc with a grin. He is actually starting to enjoy this. But before he can celebrate, the orc grabs his spear and slams him into a wall. Trust me, you and I need to see what's next. Seo coughs up blood, struggling to keep his body together. He realizes the orc stole his blade, thinking Seo cannot possibly pierce through that hardened blood armor while he is fighting completely empty-handed. Alright, stick with me. Seo realizes this orc is actually clever, but then he spots a massive jawbone nearby and a wild, dangerous idea suddenly hits him. Right then, Junsu lunges straight at the orc monster, shouting that he will buy some time so the main character can find another weapon to fight with. Junsu is slammed into the dirt before finishing his sentence, but Seo is already dashing forward, yelling that he has already found his new weapon. With the beast distracted by Junsu, Seo knows this is the one opening he needs to strike. He grabs the massive jawbone, knowing he has to pour every last drop of his remaining strength into this move. Now pay attention, because the way he uses this tool is genius energy surges through him as he cranks the jawbone wide open. The jawbone snaps shut on the orc's neck, decapitating him instantly. As the corpse hits the floor, the system announces he has obtained a unique grade item called the Demonic Dagger. Seo actually thanks the dead orc, since this fight finally solved the one major problem that was holding him back from reaching the next stage of his training. After the victory, Seo rushes to Junsu, trying to wake him up before he completely loses consciousness from the brutal beating he just took. Seo screams at him to stay awake, and the sheer volume is enough to jerk Junsu back to life. Rihan teases him about having 9 lives, but to Junsu, his savior looks like an actual angel in this moment. When Junsu calls him the One, Seo does not really get what he means, and just continues to tease his friend instead. He jokes that nobody else would ever look after him, but then tells Junsu to just relax because the danger is finally over. By the next morning, news crews and reporters have completely swarmed the bureau headquarters. Soon, the director of Overcross, Jun Hwan, arrives, and the crowd goes wild. Every reporter there is desperately screaming for a statement about the recent chaos that went down in the city. Some even demand to know if he is admitting the incident happened because of a highly illegal monster transport operation. Jun Hwan finally opens his mouth to speak, offering a very public and calculated apology to all of the victims. He claims the Steelblood Orc was a creature of massive research value to the entire hunter world. He lies, saying they only brought it in to donate it to the Bureau, regardless of the dangerous risks involved. The director refuses to answer anything else, though he promises he will fully cooperate with the monitoring department throughout the rest of their official investigation. Now, you and I both know the main character hates the spotlight, but a reporter spots him in the crowd. The media swarms him instantly, demanding a comment on the disaster. They ask how a mere D-rank hunter could possibly take down a high-level orc, but before he can even open his mouth to answer, his boss drags him away to work. But then a reporter shouts that the Bureau is not doing enough to handle this mess properly. He keeps going, saying the Bureau exists to keep big guilds in check and prevent these exact tragic incidents. Because they failed to do their actual jobs this time, the guy blames the Bureau itself. Seo is furious, but his boss tells him to ignore the idiot, because he is just a YouTube star getting paid by big guilds to post biased trash. His boss wants him to walk away, but since they are playing dirty, Seo decides it is time to make a real move. He walks right up to the reporter and asks if he is currently live on air, which the guy quickly confirms. Seo says he wants the whole world to hear this in real time, and then he let out a loud shout. He asks the guy if it feels good to take bribes from big guilds, then points at Jun Hwan, telling everyone the Bureau is always the one cleaning up their bloody messes. The room goes silent, and even the director is left speechless. Seo's boss quickly drags him off before he can cause even more of a scene. Junhwan asks if this is the same guy who insulted him before, and when his assistant confirms it, he is livid. He orders his team to do whatever it takes to crush him. The next day, Rihan is called into a meeting because that viral video from yesterday is blowing up everywhere. Rihan tells the officials that Seo should not be punished, especially since many other articles are actually praising his actions. However, the chief of the monitoring department, Hyun-huk, is still dead set on making sure Seo gets punished. Rihan disagrees, arguing that the blame lies with Overcross, or the people who were supposed to be managing them. Hyun-huk asks if he is calling them incompetent, and Rihan looks him in the eye and says exactly that. Trust me, the fallout will be insane. Bridge. Stick with me, because the elephant in the room is the fact that Seo Yul has a perfect 100% rescue rate. The director realizes Seo Yul is a talent they simply cannot afford to lose if they want the Bureau to keep its dignity. Hyun looks at the mysterious, powerful man and asks if he actually has a plan in mind. He simply replies that since the guilds want to play games, it is only fair that the Bureau plays along too. The man calmly takes a sip of his tea, and we learn he is Park Kwang-soo, the powerful director of the Bureau. Later on, Seo Yul receives an official invite from the director and heads straight to the man's office to meet him. Upon entering, Kwang-soo tells him to take a seat because they have some very important matters to discuss together. Kwang-soo brews some tea for them, and after serving it, he asks how it tastes. Yul jokes that it's good enough to open a cafe. Kwang-soo is pleased, then asks Yul what rank he thinks he would realistically get if he were to retake the test now. Yul replies that he can't say for certain, but he is confident it would be much higher than his current rank. Kwang-soo agrees, noting that Yul has lately achieved things that no D-rank hunter should ever be able to pull off. However, he warns Yul that things are getting difficult because people are actively trying to dig up dirt on his past. Bridge. Now, pay attention here, because Yul starts getting worried about where exactly the director is going with all of this. He wonders if the old man is just helping him to bait him into spilling every one of his secrets. Basically, Kwang-soo is a veteran in the game of politics, which is how he has held his top position for so long. Before this, Lihan told Yul to be completely honest and not play games with Kwang-soo, or it might end up hurting him. Yul knows he has followed Lihan's advice up until this moment, so he tries to stay as cool as possible. But he knows mentioning the labyrinth is a bad move. Luckily, Kwang-soo tells him to relax, as he won't ask about his strength yet. Kwang-soo tells him that what matters most right now is that the Bureau desperately needs his unique power for their goals. Without beating around the bush, he tells Seo Yul that he is officially sending him away to the countryside for work. At the same time, Jung-woon has just been discharged after being told the investigation into his actions is finally over. Jung-woon thanks his liaison, Siwoo, before asking what he thinks of Yul. Siwoo wonders why he cares so much about a mere rescue worker. Jung-woon angrily replies that Seo Yul is nothing but a pest who is constantly getting on his nerves. Siwoo then asks Jung-woon if his hatred for the guy is why he decided to kick him to the countryside. Jung-woon warns him to watch his mouth, claiming he just wants Yul to have some time for self-reflection. They are in the middle of this when Yul suddenly appears behind them, asking if they are close or something. Jung-woon tries to act cool, saying fate keeps bringing them together before mentioning the news of Yul being sent to the countryside. Yul just picks his ear and blows it off, casually telling Jung-woon that even though the notice isn't out, he already knows. He starts teasing him. Bridge. You and I both know how much Yul loves a good troll. He tells Jung-woon not to worry about a 6-month trip. Jung-woon just mocks him, calling him a naive optimist based on the rumors he has been hearing lately. He says the Bureau only dispatches department heads or higher, so this looks more like a permanent exile than a simple dispatch. But Yul cuts him off, telling him that even his little spy doesn't know the most important news of the day yet. He reveals that as of today, he has been promoted from 8th grade to 6th grade, a senior officer, thanks to a double promotion. Both Siwoo and Jung-woon are completely shocked, and Yul quickly teases Jung-woon for not looking very happy about the news. Silence. Jung-woon swallows his pride, wondering aloud if the Bureau just hands out promotions to anyone these days without them being qualified. Yul replies that it just means the Bureau knows how to keep real talent, and he's sure Jung-woon is pissed his plan failed. This snaps Jung-woon's temper as he unleashes a terrifying aura, but Yul counters the threat with total ease. Siwoo is forced to step in, telling Jung-woon that it is finally time for them to leave. Jung-woon apologizes, saying he just spaced out for a second before turning to be on his way. As he leaves, Yul gives him some advice. Moving him was a big mistake, because no matter where they send him, his job never changes. Yul says this with total confidence as he walks away, and Jung-woon finally loses his cool, punching the wall hard. It turns out that during the meeting, Director Kwang-soo told Yul that he didn't need to worry about the dispatch at all. Bridge. And trust me, you and I will see this isn't an exile, it's just a 6-month move while things settle down. However, you and I know Seo has to prove himself here. or those vultures on the outside will tear him apart. During the meeting, Kongu notices Seo is totally zoned out and snaps him back to the real world. Seo apologizes immediately, thanking the director for always having his back. But he has one request. Since he is heading out to the countryside, he asks the director to send him somewhere that actually needs his unique help. Kongu is absolutely floored. He never expected this kind of selfless move from someone in Seo's position. The director has no choice but to admit it, this guy is just built different. Soon, the rest of the crew hears he has been promoted to senior officer, and it shocks the hell out of them. They ask Lihan if he was in the loop, and he confirms it. He is the department head, after all. The team worries about handling rescues without Seo, but Lihan tells them they just have to step up. With only 1 week left, Lihan suggests they give him a call to see if he is coming to the team dinner happening that night. The yellow-haired rookie decides to try his luck and reaches out to Seo directly. Surprisingly, he answers the call, but Seo says he is a bit busy at the moment. When asked what he is doing, Seo casually mentions he is currently clearing out a giant wasp nest. Trust me, this is no ordinary nest. Seo finally entered the dungeon to finish a mission with only 72 hours left on the clock. Failure means his combat power against insect monsters will be slashed by 50%. After hanging up, Seo stares down the queen's nest. She is pumping out monsters by the second, but he is not worried as long as he can move. Seo charges ahead, aiming straight for the queen's head. But suddenly, he is intercepted by insect monsters called sweepfits, forcing him into a brutal engagement. He realizes the queen had a whole army lying in wait just for him. These sweepfits fire their stingers like high-speed bullets. They cost a massive amount of energy to grow, so the queen rarely uses them. Seo wonders if she already had this trap ready from the start. Either way, he has zero time to waste. If he stalls, he will end up being completely surrounded. Before they swarm him, Seo opens the labyrinth, dragging the monsters into a world of lethal traps where he can handle them easily. With the labyrinth active, he thinks he has a clear shot at the nest, but suddenly, the insects shift their patterns. Seo is confused. Are they actually changing their flight path to avoid getting dragged into the void? They are flying incredibly low, which seems to be their way of resisting the sphere's pull. Now pay attention here, because it turns out this queen monster has been watching him and taking notes the whole time. Instead of being annoyed, Seo actually feels honored that she is using every bit of her tiny brain just to kill him. Still, Seo has a plan of his own. Since he can't respawn labyrinth monsters yet, he decides to dive in himself. He'll pull in as many as possible before making a break for it. Once he has a clear line to the queen, he taunts her, telling her to stop hiding like a coward. Suddenly, the queen's pheromones go into overdrive. That means she is definitely about to pull out a desperate trump card. He wonders if she is calling the entire swarm. To be safe, he triggers his sixth sense immediately. Good thing he did, because he barely manages to dodge a lethal strike that was aimed right at his vitals. The queen wasn't just calling for backup. She summoned her ultimate weapon, a powerful elite soldier she had been hiding. This monster is known as Winglash. The pressure is so intense, Seo has to turn and start running. He finally sees how desperate she is to stop him. She literally grew a brand new beast just to deal with him. Seo sprints toward the sphere, planning to trap the Winglash and leave the queen wide open. Just as he hoped, the sphere snags the Winglash. While it struggles against the labyrinth's pull, Seo goes straight for the now defenseless queen. Suddenly, he senses the Winglash is right on his tail again. He spins around just in time to block a devastating follow-up attack. The beast slams him into the dirt. That's when Seo realizes the monster actually tore off its own arm to escape the suction. While the Winglash pins him down, the queen screeches from the sidelines, cheering it on. Seeing how stubborn these two are, Seo decides to drag them both into the labyrinth. It wasn't the original plan, but now they are trapped in his domain. And trust me, you and I are about to see him win. Alright, you and I are about to see what happens when a trap master finally stops playing nice. Realizing he looks like a lunatic talking to monsters, Seo Yul opens his inventory to activate Steel Rain. This triggers a massive volley of arrows, but the Winglash deflects everything with its wings. Seo Yul is impressed he finally sees why it is called a Winglash. However, the Winglash isn't safe yet. Before the monster even knows what's happening, a second wave of arrows shreds the beast apart from behind. Seo Yul reminds the queen that all her royal efforts were destined to be in vain. This is his domain now, and he has packed every inch with traps designed specifically for monsters like her. With her ultimate protector dead, they are the only ones left. It is time for Seo Yul to end this. He knows her armor is way too thick for his spear, so there is no point in wasting time poking it. Instead, he shifts his stance, searching for any soft spot to deliver a killing blow to the queen. However, the queen still blocks his attack and shoves him back. Seo Yul is actually surprised that she is trying this hard not to go down easily. He has 3 days left on the clock, but Seo Yul wants to finish this right here, right now. Besides, leaving just because he has time would make it look like he is running away from a bug. He triggers a hidden trapdoor, and the impact completely shatters several of the queen's heavy limbs. Now watch closely, Seo Yul is about to use his real trump card. He has never tested this skill before, but using it against the queen is a perfect opportunity. With her broken and unable to move, she is wide open. He lunges forward, activating the Crimson Lotus skill to unleash a massive, swirling explosion of raw energy. The blast leaves a massive hole in the queen's chest. She is finally defeated, and the system confirms his victory with a congratulatory message. Seo Yul collapses, gasping for air from the massive drain on his total energy reserves. His hand is scorched. Looking at the burn, he realizes how weak he has been up until this point. But the days of running are over. The system notifies him that his rewards are waiting in the inventory. He checks the loot and finds a poison stinger, a rare item with some pretty nasty potential. It has a unique effect that can paralyze any monster ranked at 2 stars or below. The power drops off against 3-star enemies, but Seo Yul knows this will be clutch in certain fights. But it is the second reward that really catches his eye, the Queen's Royal Jelly, another rare find. It is a one-time use item that, once swallowed, it drastically boosts mana sensitivity, but there are side effects. Since traps eat up mana, Seo Yul knows he needs every drop of power he can get. Without hesitating, he bites into the jelly and consumes the whole thing in a single go. You see that too? It is pure power. The mana is so overwhelming that it is threatening to explode out of his skin, but he is not about to let this hard-earned reward escape him. He focuses his breathing, circulating the flow as much as possible to force his blood vessels to accept the new true chi. The mana storm finally settles. The system chimes in to congratulate him on his incredible physical transformation. He has now obtained a special constitution, the Myriad Soul's Peach Blossom physique. His senses are razor sharp. He is stunned that a single piece of jelly could provide such a massive boost. His stats have skyrocketed. Putting his life on the line is finally paying off in a big way. There are side effects though, but instead of worrying about them, he decides to push it aside for later. The main event is finally starting, which is the incorporation of brand new labyrinth monsters. Only a few red goblins are left. No matter how strong he gets, he still needs a real army. He cannot handle every threat solo. It is time to restock his defenses and build something better. As he gathers the eggs, the system explains that the beehive counts as one entity and suggests he install the Lake of Decay trap. This brand new trap was unlocked specifically for defeating the queen. By submerging a corpse into the lake, all its experience points and traits are transferred directly to a chosen labyrinth monster. If he targets the Lake of Decay's effect on the beehive, every single egg inside will evolve and grow stronger at once. And that's where we leave it, trust me. The monster he chooses is going to change everything. Let's dive in, as Seo finally picks a summon. And trust me, it is massive. He smiles, naming the boss Vespa and promising to bring him some high-grade treats. Later, Seo heads out for drinks after Junga asks to meet up, but he and his colleague arrive way before she does. His friend asks what he has been doing lately, and Seo just says he is busy finding food for the guy he is raising. The buddy has no clue what Seo is saying and asks him if he is raising some sort of exotic pet. Now watch this, Seo actually spent his free time retaking his rank test just because the director requested it. His colleague thinks he is a total weirdo, since literally anyone else would have spent their time off on a relaxing vacation. Suddenly, the guy notices some women staring, and he immediately starts bragging to Seo about how handsome he is. But then Junga shows up. Seo is teasing her for being late until he sees her nose bleeding, and trust me, this gets dark.